My name is Elliot Baines, and I'm 42 years old. For the past 20 years, I've been what you might call the invisible backbone of my family. While my younger brother Travis got all the attention and praise, I was the one paying the bills, fixing the leaky roof, and driving my parents to their doctor appointments in my beat-up Honda Civic. I work as a senior accountant at Morrison & Associates here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's not glamorous work, but it pays well enough to cover my modest apartment rent and still have plenty left over for what became my primary responsibility, keeping the Baines family afloat. My parents, Edward and Margaret, both 68 now, had never been particularly good with money. Dad's construction business went under during the 2008 recession, and Mom's part-time job at the local library barely covered groceries. Travis, my 31-year-old brother, still lived at home and worked sporadically as a bartender when he felt like it. He had this charm that somehow made everyone overlook his complete lack of responsibility. While I was transferring $800 every month to cover their mortgage, Travis was spending his tip money on craft beer and vintage band t-shirts. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new, unreleased stories here every day, each one more intense than the last. Every month, like clockwork, I'd send the money transfer through my Wells Fargo app. Mortgage payment, utility bills, Dad's blood pressure medication, Mom's arthritis prescription. I kept a detailed spreadsheet of every expense because that's what accountants do. We document everything. Over 20 years, I calculated I'd sent them roughly $210,000. Not once did I receive a thank you card, a phone call, or even a text message acknowledging what I was doing. The few times I visited their house on Elm Street, the same house they'd bought when I was in college, Mom would complain about how Travis needed new clothes for job interviews, or Dad would mention how the furnace was making strange noises again. I'd quietly write another check, schedule the repair, and drive back to my empty apartment. Meanwhile, Travis would breeze through the living room in designer jeans, talking about some girl he'd met at the bar, or some business idea that would definitely make him rich this time. Christmas 2022 was supposed to be different. For once, I decided I'd actually enjoy the holiday instead of worrying about January's bills. I even bought Mom a nice cashmere scarf from Nordstrom and got Dad a new set of socket wrenches he'd been eyeing at Home Depot. I wrapped them carefully and drove over to their house on December 23rd, carrying the gifts and a bottle of wine I'd splurged on. The moment I walked through the front door, I knew something was off. Travis was practically bouncing with excitement, and my parents kept exchanging these knowing looks. "Wait until you see what your brother has planned," Mom whispered to me, her eyes sparkling in a way I hadn't seen in years. That's when I noticed it through the living room window. A gleaming black BMW X5 sitting in their driveway, still bearing temporary dealer plates. Christmas dinner that year will be burned into my memory forever. Mom had made her famous honey-glazed ham, and the dining room table was set with the good china that only came out twice a year. Travis kept checking his phone and grinning like he'd won the lottery. Dad was unusually animated, talking about how proud he was of his boys, and how this Christmas would be one for the books. "So, Travis," Mom said as we sat down to eat, "when are you going to tell Elliot about your surprise?" Travis stood up dramatically, pulling out his iPhone and dangling a set of BMW keys. "I bought Mom and Dad a car," he announced, his chest puffed out with pride. "A 2019 BMW X5. Certified pre-owned, but it's loaded. Leather seats, navigation system, heated steering wheel, premium sound system." The room erupted. Mom started crying happy tears. Dad jumped up to hug Travis, and Travis's girlfriend Sarah started taking photos for her social media. $45,000, Travis continued. "But our parents deserve the best, right, Elliot?" I sat there chewing my ham, doing the math in my head. $45,000. That was nearly 3 years of the mortgage payments I'd been making. I wanted to ask where Travis had suddenly found that kind of money when he'd never held a steady job for more than 6 months, but I kept quiet. This was his moment, apparently. "Travis, honey, this is the most generous thing anyone has ever done for us," Mom sobbed, hugging him tight. "We're so proud of you." Dad raised his glass of wine. "To Travis," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "for showing us what it really means to be a son who cares about his family." That's when it hit me like a punch to the gut. 20 years of mortgage payments, car repairs, medical bills, and groceries. And this was the first time I'd heard my father say he was proud of one of his sons. Not when I graduated summa cum laude from Cleveland State University with my accounting degree. Not when I got my CPA certification 3 years later. Not when I paid for their furnace replacement 2 winters ago. But Travis buying them a car with money that seemingly appeared out of thin air? That was worth a toast. I raised my glass quietly and took a sip, saying nothing. "You know, Elliot," Dad continued, and I could tell by his tone that this wasn't going to be good. "Maybe you could learn something from your younger brother here. Travis understands what family is about. He makes grand gestures. He shows he cares." The room went silent. Sarah put down her phone. Mom's smile faltered slightly. "Dad, I think—" Travis started to say, but Dad wasn't finished. 20 years, Elliot. 20 years you've been coming to these dinners, and what do you have to show for it? You're 42 years old, no wife, no kids, living in that sad little apartment. And now look at Travis. 31 years old and already more successful than you'll ever be." Dad's voice was getting louder, and I could smell the wine on his breath. "When was the last time you did something meaningful for this family? Something that actually mattered?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Mom was staring at her plate. Travis looked uncomfortable. Sarah was pretending to check her phone, but I could see her stealing glances at me. I set down my fork very carefully. I folded my napkin and placed it next to my plate. I looked around the table at these people I'd been supporting for 2 decades, and I realized something profound. They had no idea. They genuinely had no clue that I'd been paying their bills all this time. "You're absolutely right, Dad," I said quietly, standing up from my chair. "I've never done anything meaningful for this family." I walked over to Travis and shook his hand. "Congratulations on the car, little brother. That's really something special." Travis squeezed my hand, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of confusion in his eyes. Like maybe he knew something wasn't right about this whole situation, but he couldn't quite put his finger on what. "I'm going to head home," I announced, grabbing my coat from the hall closet. "Thanks for dinner, Mom. The ham was perfect as always." I drove home in complete silence, my hands steady on the steering wheel of my Honda Civic, the one with 185,000 miles on it. The one I'd been driving for 9 years, because I'd been too busy funding their lifestyle to upgrade my own transportation. That night, I sat in my apartment with my laptop open, staring at my Wells Fargo account. The next mortgage payment was scheduled for January 3rd, 2023. $800, just like every month for the past 20 years. But this time I clicked Cancel Recurring Payment. Then I opened my spreadsheet. 20 years of meticulous record-keeping. Every expense documented with dates and amounts. Mortgage payments, property taxes, utilities, medical expenses, car repairs, emergency roof work, furnace replacement, appliance purchases. The total was staggering. $214,863. I spent the next 3 hours drafting an email. I rewrote it 4 times, making sure every word was precise and professional. No emotion, no accusations, just facts. "Dear Mom, Dad, and Travis," it began. "After tonight's dinner and Dad's speech about meaningful contributions to the family, I've done some reflection. You're absolutely right. I haven't made any grand gestures. Instead, I've been quietly handling the mortgage payments, utility bills, property taxes, and medical expenses for the past 20 years. The attached spreadsheet shows every transaction, totaling 214,40s, 863. Effective immediately, I'm canceling all financial support. The January mortgage payment will not be processed. Going forward, I'll be focusing on building my own life, just as you've encouraged me to do. I wish you all the best with your new BMW. Best regards, Elliot." I attached the spreadsheet and sent the email at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas night. Then I closed my laptop and went to bed. For the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up worried about someone else's problems. The phone started ringing at 6:23 a.m. on December 26th. Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad called. Then Travis, then Mom again. By noon, I had 17 missed calls and 12 voicemails. I listened to them while eating lunch at my kitchen table. The progression was fascinating to observe from an analytical standpoint. Mom's first message was confused. Honey, I got your email, but I think there might be some mistake about those numbers. Dad's first voicemail was angry. Elliot, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this email is ridiculous. Call me back immediately. By the fifth message, Mom was crying. Please, sweetheart, we need to talk about this. I had no idea you were... we never asked you to. Travis's voicemail was the most interesting. Dude, I'm looking at this spreadsheet and this can't be right. Did you really pay for all this stuff? Why didn't you ever tell us? I didn't return any of the calls. Instead, I drove to Best Buy and bought myself something I'd been wanting for 3 years. A 65-inch Samsung QLED TV. Cost me $2,000, which happened to be exactly what I'd normally spend on their family in 2.5 months. That evening, Travis showed up at my apartment. I could see him through the peephole, shifting his weight from foot to foot, looking nervous. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. We need to talk, he said. About what? About all this money stuff. I didn't know, Elliot. I swear I didn't know you were paying for everything. I leaned against my door frame. Where did you get $45,000 for a BMW, Travis? His face went red. Look, it's complicated. Did you finance it? Yeah, but what's your monthly payment? $680, but I can handle it. I'm making decent money bartending now, and Sarah helps with some of the payment. I almost laughed. $680 a month. That's nearly what I was paying for Mom and Dad's mortgage. Elliot, I was trying to do something nice. I wanted to show them I could take care of them too. With a 6-year loan on a car you can't afford while living in a house you can't pay for. Travis ran his hands through his hair. Look, maybe we can work something out. Split the bills or something. I know you're upset about what Dad said. I'm not upset, I said, and I realized it was true. I'm done. What do you mean, done? I mean, I'm 42 years old, and I'm going to start living like it. You wanted to be the family provider? Congratulations. The job is yours. I closed the door and watched through the peephole as he stood there for another 5 minutes before finally walking away. January 3rd, 2023 came and went. No mortgage payment. On January 5th, Mom called in tears. The bank had left a message about a missed payment. On January 8th, Dad called, no longer angry, but pleading. The electric company wanted $200 immediately, or they'd shut off service. I was promoted to accounting manager at Morrison & Associates that same week. My boss, Patricia Morrison, called me into her office on Friday afternoon. Elliot, I've been impressed with your dedication to this company, she said. How would you feel about taking on the Henderson Industries account? It's our biggest client, and it comes with a $22,000 salary increase and a new title. I accepted immediately. That weekend, I went car shopping and put a deposit on a new Toyota Camry hybrid. Nothing flashy, just reliable transportation that got excellent gas mileage. The salesman mentioned they had several used BMWs on the lot, and I couldn't help but smile. Not interested, I told him. Too expensive to maintain. By February 2023, the situation had deteriorated rapidly. Travis called me at work, something he'd never done before. His voice was shaky. "Elliot, they're threatening foreclosure. The bank sent a notice. We have until March 15th to bring the account current." "How much do you need?" I asked, knowing the answer. $3,200. That covers January, February, and the late fees. "And your BMW payment?" Long silence. "I'm handling that. Sarah's been helping." "Are you really?" "Look, I might have to trade down. But right now, Mom and Dad are freaking out. Dad's talking about selling the house." "Maybe that's not such a bad idea," I said. "They could downsize to something more affordable." "Elliot, come on. They've lived in that house for 22 years. It's their home. A home they can't afford to keep." Travis was quiet for a moment. "What would it take for you to help us out? Just this once? An apology would be a good start." "I'm sorry, okay? I'm really sorry. I didn't know about all the money you'd been spending." "Not from you, Travis. From Dad." 2 weeks later, Dad showed up at my office. Patricia's receptionist buzzed me. "There's an Edward Baines here to see you. Says he's your father." I found him in the lobby, looking older than I remembered. He was wearing his good suit, the one he'd worn to my college graduation 20 years ago, but it hung loose on his frame now. "Can we talk?" he asked. We went to the coffee shop across the street. Dad ordered black coffee and stared at his hands for a long time before speaking. "I was wrong," he said finally. "What I said at Christmas dinner. It was cruel and it was wrong, and I'm sorry." I waited. "Your mother showed me the spreadsheet. All those years. Elliot, why didn't you ever tell us? You never asked. We should have asked. We should have known." He looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my father's eyes. Respect. "You kept us afloat for 20 years, and we treated you like you didn't matter." "I mattered," I said quietly. "Just not to you." Dad winced. "That's not true." "Dad, you toasted Travis for buying you a car with money he doesn't have. You've never once acknowledged that I paid your mortgage, your medical bills, kept your lights on for 2 decades. I know, and I hate myself for it." We sat in silence for several minutes. Finally, Dad pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I said it right," he said, his voice cracking. "You are the most responsible, generous, selfless man I know. You sacrificed your own dreams to take care of your family, and instead of thanking you, I humiliated you. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." I took a sip of my coffee. "What about Travis?" "Travis is going to have to figure things out on his own. He traded in the BMW for a used Honda Accord last week. He and Sarah are both working full-time now, trying to keep up with the bills." "And the house?" We're going to sell it. Your mother found a nice 2-bedroom condo in Lakewood. Manageable payments. We should have downsized years ago. Dad reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This is a check for $5,000. It's not nearly enough, but it's everything we have in savings. I want you to have it. I didn't touch the envelope. Keep it, you'll need it for the condo down payment. Elliot. Dad, I don't want your money. I never wanted your money. I wanted your respect. His eyes filled with tears. You have it now. You've always had it. I was just too proud and too stupid to show it. I stood up to leave, then turned back. There's something else I want you to know. I met someone. Her name is Rachel. She's a nurse at Cleveland Clinic, and she thinks what I did for you and Mom all those years makes me a good man, not a fool. Dad smiled through his tears. When do we get to meet her? When you're ready to treat me like the son who's been here all along. That conversation happened in March 2023. Over 2 years have passed since then. My parents sold the house that spring and moved into their condo in Lakewood. Dad found part-time work at Home Depot, something that gives him purpose and helps pay the bills. Travis is working full-time as an assistant manager at a restaurant downtown, and he and Sarah moved into a modest apartment together. He's been calling me regularly, and we're slowly rebuilding our relationship. Rachel and I have been dating for over a year now, and things are going well. We're talking about moving in together this fall. The difference is, this time my family is genuinely supportive of something good happening in my life. When I brought Rachel to Sunday dinner at my parents' condo last month, Dad pulled me aside and told me he could see how happy I was, and that he was proud of the man I'd become. I still drive my Honda Civic sometimes, even though I could afford something much nicer now. It reminds me of where I came from and what I learned. Respect isn't something you can buy with grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's earned through consistency, sacrifice, and showing up when nobody's watching. The real revenge wasn't cutting off their money. It was finally cutting myself free from people who didn't value what I brought to their lives. And discovering that when you stop carrying everyone else's weight, you finally have the strength to build something beautiful for yourself. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get updates on new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.